are back with the Hubscale podcast. This week's guest is Lynn Monaghan. With over 20 years recruitment experience, spent time on the agency side before moving into the cybersecurity world with companies like Raytheon, Sophos, and now is the VP of Global Talent Acquisition with Beyond Trust. This is very exciting for me because it's our first TA leader on the show. Lynn, it's great to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem at all. So I guess for anybody who doesn't know you, including the listeners, just give a quick introduction to yourself.
Yeah, of course. So Lynn Monaghan, as you said, I head up talent acquisition here at Beyond Trust. I've been here for a little over 4 years. As you said, over 20 years of recruiting with probably the past about 8 years within the cybersecurity space specifically. And I was brought on to build out the TA team from post-acquisitions here at Beyond Trust. So I was their first TA leader that they had hired.
No, awesome. No, fantastic. And so tell me more about Beyond Trust. Of course, they're a very well reputable brand within the cybersecurity world, but tell me more from your perspective.
Yeah, of course. So we're the global leader in cybersecurity. We focus on privileged access management, or for short, it's PAM. That is our main focus. We actually have a bunch of new solutions coming out this year, which we're very excited about. But we are leading the space within PAM.
No, awesome. Absolutely fantastic. And I've been watching Beyond Trust, as you know, for a very, very long time as well. The privileged access management space is only on the way up as well. And it's a very, very necessary security products and solutions. So very, very cool stuff. So you mentioned something a minute ago, Lynn, around kind of building the TA function as well from scratch, really, at Beyond Trust. I know you and I have talked about this before, but it'd be great to understand, how do you build a TA function from scratch as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came in, as I had mentioned, it was post-acquisition. So essentially, there were four smaller, very small companies that rolled up into what we now know as Beyond Trust. So the first task was going in there and kind of figuring out how all of these legacy companies did things. They all had their way of presenting offers and searching for candidates and all of that stuff. Because the companies were so small within themselves, 100, maybe less employees, they really didn't have any processes and procedures. When I came in, I think I had about two recruiters, one international, one US. And so the first step for me was to build the foundation. For me, that's the people. I'm in the people business, so I truly believe that having the right people is that first step. So that's really what I went to is what kind of people do we need on this team, internationally, globally, US wise? How many people is it going to take? What kind of recruiters do I need? And right from the start, I thought I really need seasoned recruiters that really know what they're doing. And part of my reasoning for that was to gain their knowledge from the industries, the companies that they were at. To help bring some of those really good ideas to Beyond Trust. So I started with the people. I have the most amazing TA team on the planet. I don't just say that, I really do have that. Not just because I selected some of them, but they brought in people on their own. So I'm a big referral person and network person. So we built out the team. I have two amazing senior talent acquisition managers today. One oversees international, one oversees US. And then they have recruiters and support folks and everything that fall under them. So I started with the people, and from there I built out the processes, the procedures, the systems, ATS system, Greenhouse, which we use, and used really the team that I brought in. One of the things I'm really big on is using the ideas that they have to brainstorm with my team. So very inclusive. I want us to put all of our intelligent brains together and figure out the most innovative, intelligent and smarter ways to do things. So I started with the people and then built it out from there. Today, the team ranges from about 9, I think, full-time. We scale up and down 12 to 15 for contractors, depending on the volume. And last year, that team that I spoke of hired, I believe, 502 new hires last year. So 32% of those were actually referrals. So I think 162 of them were actually referrals. Which is huge, right? That speaks volumes for the company and the culture and wanting to bring people in here yourself. So
Yeah, no, and the art of referrals as well is it takes time to build up that network as well. So bringing on senior and seasoned people to do that as well is fantastic. So I just want to take it back slightly as well. I know obviously starting a TA business from more or less scratch within an organization, a cybersecurity fast growth organization, is critical for you and I, obviously being recruiters as well. Obviously, I'm on the other side of the fence, but I guess in terms of scaling that business, how important is it to have that TA function in place pretty early on as you scale?
So obviously having the people to build your products, right? So if you look at the engineering team, we need the best engineers within the world, which I believe that we have. And so we need them to build the product, and then we need really good rock star salespeople to sell it, right? So if you kind of look at the business as a whole, providing the people that will provide the people that actually function the entire business, right? So they make the products, they sell the products, they market the products. So all of those departments that support the overall mission is really important for the talent acquisition teams to be able to have something in place that we can hire quickly.
So in terms of when you've grown your team, and obviously you like what you did at Beyond Trust, what is the hardest part of that, and what's been your biggest problem when growing your team?
Yeah, so the hardest part for that for me has been not having enough budget to get headcount for enough people on the team. So when I first started, because we didn't know how quickly we were going to grow, it's a startup, right? You're not sure how quickly it's going to go. You're not sure how many people you actually need to do this, right? It's kind of an estimate till you can get some history to find out. So for me, the hardest part was having all of these recs and not having enough people to support them or to fill them. So a couple things there is I was able to hire contractors and not full time. But with contractors, you don't always necessarily get the huge investment that you get for full time. Or I hired vendors like yourself to help out. So that was probably the biggest challenge for me, but I found amazing partnerships with, people like yourself. And then I was able to find some really good contractors that really put in the work. So for me, that was the biggest challenge was finding the people with the amount of work that it takes.
Yeah, no, it's a great point as well, and I'm looking forward to going into that at the end, the partnership between TA, HR, and recruiters as well, which I've got an interesting question at the end. But I guess in terms of moving slightly onto hiring that talent, what you've been talking about there, how do you hire the best talent in cybersecurity? It's one of the fastest growing areas in the world.
Yeah, definitely. So you just said it, right? So this is the industry to be in because as the technology grows, so don't the threats, right? So don't the hackers, right? As intelligence grows, this vertical grows with that, right? So we'll always need to be more secure. As unfortunately, when COVID hit and everyone had furloughed or laid off or paused, we were still going, right? Because more people were now working from home, so you need more security for that, right? So our sales went up, our interest went up. So fortunately for us, we're in a really good industry, right? So that's the first selling point. You mentioned too about specific to cybersecurity. This is fast paced, right? So you have to know how to keep up. You have to be able to keep up. Either you love being fast paced and challenged or you don't, right? So it's finding those people that thrive in the chaos, right? It's finding those people that really want to roll their sleeves up and really want to build something because the people that have come on board have been part of building this amazing thing that we've built, right? It's not just myself, it's not just my team, it's the entire company. They've all been part of this. So that's obviously a sell, is be part of, what we're building and put your spin on it, right? And then the thing that I think is really good for us is we're able to humanize. We humanize a lot here at Beyond Trust, and what that means is we offer really great benefits. We offer a lot of support internally. So our biggest, I think, sell is our culture, our people, right? Going back to the referrals, right? If you find the right people, they're with the right people in their network and their connections. And so we really rely on our internal employees and we really take care of them first. So we have, amazing benefits. We have an amazing sales enablement team. So for salespeople that we bring in, they get continuous training. They have all the tools that they need. We have a global training sales enablement program that continues they call it everboarding actually. So they continue to train the sales folks when they come in and give them the tools that they need. And we have a lot of culture teams and groups and amazing benefits. So I think once someone gets on the phone with anyone here in talent acquisition, I think that first phone call, they're more excited when they talk to somebody because they realize how amazing it is. And then they continue to go on and they feel those conversations get better and better. I think if I was to take one phrase that I've heard, even from my own team when they started, is a couple of weeks after I've heard, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop because they feel like it's not real. It can't be this good. People aren't this excited. It's not that good, but it really is. So it kind of sells itself, the company, by the people, and we're true believers of taking care of our employees first.
Yeah, and I think that can show within the interview process as well. I think one of the key things that I work with companies, especially early stage ones, is mapping out that process, right? And the first person that you spoke with, whether it's a vendor like myself or an internal TA or whoever it may be, if you can feel that energy, if you can feel that passion behind them as well, that is also a gateway into how the business operates as well. So I think that's so important, especially when hiring the best of the best as well.
Yes, 100%. It just tapped into something else that we try to do here is diverse interview panels. So when people think diverse, they instantly go to a nationality or a gender, but it's so much more than that, right? Diversity can mean people that are introverted. It can mean different classes of people. So we try to sit down and with the hiring team and say, okay, let's think about this a little bit more diverse. Here's who you usually have on the interview panel, but would it make sense if we brought in X, Y, and Z just to have a different opinion, a different outlook? And then the candidate gets to talk to different perspectives, right? So it might be a little one-off. It may not be somebody that they work with every day. It might be, a peer, or it might be somebody else that they work with in the group, a partner within a department or something like that. So we try to do that with interview panels as well to create a better candidate experience too.
Yeah, no, I think that's really exciting. It goes into our next topic pretty well about obviously the security in the tech industry is pretty known for wanting more of diverse teams and things on those lines. But in your opinion, how can we hire more diverse teams?
Yeah. So, and this is a hot topic, right? It has been for a couple of years. I feel like it's come up more in the past couple of years for sure, where people didn't really pay attention to it all that much. So it's great that this is a topic that people are discussing and it's out on the table. We've tried a couple different things specific to talent acquisition. So we've tried the job boards, we've tried the career fairs, the networks and stuff like that. We've put a lot of investment into that. But what we found, ironically, going back to taking care of our people, is that our diversity numbers, our diverse pools, have grown organically on their own. And again, going back to taking care of our employees, we have a culture team and we have culture groups here. So we have groups like Black at BT or Amigos at BT. So there's different diverse groups. We're actually thinking about putting together an introverted group. And so we have people that feel like they belong here and it's a safe place for them to speak to other people that are like them. We also have diversity speakers come in. So quarterly, sometimes we have the entire company's invited. And people share stories. So it's just a really welcoming culture. So we found that it's grown organically. So the people that we brought in that were diverse, they're saying, well, now this is such a great company and the culture and they support, I feel supported, I feel seen. And then they tell others. And so I actually just pulled some numbers the other day, and we're actually doing better than most tech companies, our competitors, in the diversity space. And that is from organic growth. So I'm a true believer in taking care of the employees that we have here. And then that's going to organically grow outside. We're, of course, part of networks, Women in Tech and things like that. We support, we support a lot of job fairs and stuff like that internationally as well as in the US, right? Because we want people to know that we are an equal employer and we do promote diversity. We love diversity. So that's something that we try to just get out there as well.
Yeah, I think it's so important as well, because you mentioned something there about you're creating kind of a space for people to come in and feel like they're welcome. And I think that's awesome. I think some of the things I was reading the other day is around having role models in the industry. And obviously you yourself as a leader and everything along those lines. I think it's just awesome. And I think moving more down the road as well, I think companies like yourself doing what you guys are doing is going to be just cool as well moving forward.
Yeah. And you mentioned role models. We actually have a mentorship program here at BT as well. So it's part of the leadership circle. So any person that reports into an executive, they're deemed in this leadership circle, which I'm part of. And so as a mentor, as a leadership circle, you can sign up to be a mentor, and then any employee at the company can sign up to be a mentee. And so you have kind of a buddy, and you meet, and you have it's an entire system and program that we have internally, but it's worked out really, really well. We have our CEO that is mentoring a lot of people here, which is fantastic. Janine, she's amazing. And so there's a lot of people that are really doing a lot of great things here. So it's not just a place, it's not just a paycheck, right? It's somewhere you can go to develop, right, on a personal and professional level. So I think that's kind of what we're doing. That's our secret sauce, I guess.
Yeah, no, no, it sounds awesome. Even taking the whole company to Orlando a couple of weeks ago for your SKO and things like that as well. I think it's pretty cool. It sounds like you've got a real community, not just a company as well.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned that we went to the whole company went to Orlando and Disney World for a week a few weeks back, which was amazing. And we got to meet people that we talk to all the time, but have never met in person. So there was tons of relationships that were formed in bonds, which again goes back to the culture and taking care of our employees.
Yeah, I know, definitely. Awesome stuff. So I want to take you back kind of to the market. So I guess in terms of the rest of the year, obviously been a bit of doom and gloom in the industry right now, just with everyone online and things on those lines. But what's your take on the rest of the year?
So we're continuing to build our brand, take care of our people. We're leaning heavily on our referrals. We are still hiring, of course. We had our company all hands yesterday where the head of product announced some really amazing products that we have coming out scattered throughout the year. So the engineering team, the whole company is really excited about that. It's part of our platform. So we have some really amazing things going on here. I certainly don't want to say how amazing we're doing when the rest of the world may not be doing as well, but we are still hiring, and we are still doing great.
So moving on to, I think my most important topic today as well, talking about the relationship between talent acquisition HR and recruiters like myself. So I guess just starting off, how important is that relationship?
Yes. So that relationship to me is super important. So my stand on agencies or vendors is that I really want to have two or three solid vendors that I can rely on for specific positions or roles. So what I mean by that, Elliot, is that I love to have this relationship with you where you know the company, you know the culture, you know the managers, right? You really get to know the company, the solutions, the people, you do your homework on what the company represents. So I feel comfortable knowing that yourself or anyone that works for you is represented beyond trust the right way, right? So it's really important for me to know the vendors personally, to know their style, my style. And then it's really important for me to only have one vendor working on a rec at a time. That's really important for me. I feel like it's, not good practice to have a bunch of different agencies or vendors working on different things. It does not look good to the candidate, and it doesn't look good out there in the world where you have a million different people representing your company. So for me, I need solid vendors like yourself that I know represents, and basically I want the recruiters there or whoever is representing us to represent us the way that my team does, right? The only way I can do that is to create a relationship with a vendor to really know their style and how they approach things and how they're representing us.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's a really important piece there you mentioned about recruiters and how many recruiters working on certain roles. I think sometimes it's tough for a vendor as well, sometimes having to go into and explain that to certain vendors about you shouldn't really do that, but sometimes you can't really tell people not to sometimes when they really want to. But there's really important advice then about building the relationships with vendors and not just necessarily giving it to everybody that comes knocking on the door as well, which is really awesome. So I know obviously you've worked with a lot of vendors, and you and I have worked briefly as well. But in terms of the best case studies and the best case scenario for a vendor and a TA relationship, what does that look like?
So the best case scenario for me is if I get a requisition that I feel that my team for whatever reason cannot fill, or maybe a higher level role Another time that, I use a vendor is for confidential roles. If they're highly confidential, maybe I shouldn't say this because the other managers will know I'm doing this, but anyway, it's a good plug for you. So if the role is highly confidential, I like to have an agency work on that, right? So they're hunting for candidates, right? They're sourcing for candidates. They're not just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, right? So for me, it's important to have somebody that I can rely on, that I can call and say, hey, I need to fill rec A, B, C, and D, and they know exactly what our culture is, what the company is. They know exactly who to look for, where to go, and where to fish in that pond. So, you had mentioned talking about the team and building the team, and that, first impressions last, right? And so I put so much time into my team and the way that they represent us, the company, and it's the same thing with outside vendors. They're just an extension of my team to me. So I really want to feel that, that I really believe that they can fill the role just like my team would, right? So it's important for me to say I can pick up the phone and call Elliot and know that any candidate will get the same experience that my team will provide.
Yeah. No, I think I think that's really important, and I think that building relationships and understanding exactly what Beyond Trust does in the market and how you're going to perceive, even pitching to candidates as well. You need to have all that information. So, no, really, really great information. Now, this is one I really wanted to ask. What don't you like to see within a recruiter?
For on my team or an agency?
Either.
Either, yeah. So what I don't like to see is cutting corners. So I've done this long enough to see some crazy things. But one of the things that I've seen, and I've seen it a bunch of times actually on both sides, is for a recruiter to contact a candidate and to not do a phone screen yet, but to hammer them with questions that they should be answering or asking in a phone screen. So I've seen emails go out from recruiters, and I don't mean here at this company. I have seen it here, but I'm not just saying here and it's not my team, just in general, where a recruiter will send an email that says, Elliot, how much are you looking for compensation? Why are you looking to leave? Tell me about your last 3 jobs. And this is via email. And so for me, if somebody contacted me and asked me those questions, I'd be like, wow, okay, they must be so busy that they can't pick up the phone, or they really don't want to get to know me. Or so I think it's just very sloppy recruiting. So for me, that is a pet peeve of mine, is to not have that, again, the humanization, that touch point with the candidate, and really get to know who that candidate is to represent them, right, to the hiring manager, or to know if they're a good fit in the culture. So that for me is absolute no for a recruiter.
Yeah, no, that's pretty crazy. You definitely pick up the phone and get to know people, and that's how the most of this world works, isn't it? Build relationships with people, and things will happen one way or the other as well. But no, that's really good advice, really good advice. So I guess there's a couple of things that we do in terms of HubScale, and we work with companies, especially on a smaller scale, to kind of creating processes and creating interview processes and things on those lines as well. But what has been your kind of hardest thing when joining Beyond Trust, and kind of the early days? What was the hardest points of the kind of the mission that you had?
Yeah. So when I was interviewing for the role, I had come from Sophos, as you had mentioned, and believe it or not, we were hiring. I don't remember how many people were hiring at the time, but we always had about 300 to 600 roles open, and we had no ATS system. Believe that or not, we were doing things via email, and we were hiring 500 people a year via email. And so one of my top questions when I was interviewing for Beyond Trust was, do you have an ATS system? Which sounds laughable at this time, right, in 2023 or whatever year. And they said, yeah, we have Greenhouse. And so when I came here, I saw that we had Greenhouse, but it was just like they took Greenhouse out of the box and said, we have Greenhouse. So they were just using it to post jobs. So none of the requisitions were going through. There wasn't approvals for offers. They just weren't utilizing the system. And so day one, I said, where are your recs? Where are the recs? Where do I track them? And they had an Excel spreadsheet that had fake numbers, and it had like a rec name, no manager or anything. It was just this big spreadsheet. And I think at the time there was probably like 60 or 80 recs. I think it was 88 actually when I started. And so there was 88 recs on this spreadsheet. And so I didn't know where were we with these? Are they close to offer? Did they just open there? So that was a nightmare when I came in. So I said, okay, first we have to build out the system so it can function properly, and then I need to get all of these in here. But that wasn't even the hardest part. The hardest part, I think, was training up everybody for the system, right? The hire managers and people that weren't used to using a system or didn't want to. Offers were done by email. Hey, Elliot, do you approve? 150,000 for Ted? Yes. That was it. And so people like that. It was easy,
Yeah.
right? They didn't want to go into an entire system and write out all of Ted's, information. So I think for me, the administrative part of things was really really tough, right? There was a bunch of different ways to do things, and none of it was in a system. So it was building out that system, and then of course training everybody on how to use the system, not just the recruiters, but the entire company, right, for referrals and hire like interviews and stuff like that. So for me, that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah, no, for sure. I wanted to ask that question because we're obviously really a startup right now as well, and we're going through the whole process of systems and building everything from scratch as well. So I just wondered what was the most hardest part. So that was a selfish question, but um, but Lynn, honestly, it's been amazing having you on the show. Really appreciate you spending some time with us. And yeah, we've gone through some amazing topics that I've actually personally took a lot away from as well. So appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem. Well, good luck with everything for the rest of the year. And yeah, speak to you soon.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye.